Beauty and the Beast, Lost in a Book by Donna Lee. Prologue. Once upon forever, in an ancient crumbling palace, two sisters, Love and Death, played their eternal game. Death was mistress of the palace, and an immortal who journeyed to its rusted gates never returned. Her face was pale as shroud, her hair as dark as midnight. She wore a black gown and a hunter's necklace of teeth, talons, and claws. Her emerald eyes narrowed as she contemplated the chessboard before her. "It's your move," said Love. "I'm quite aware of that," said Death. "Tick-tock," said Love. "Only fools rush death," said Death. Sighing, Love rose from the table when she and Death were seated. Her eyes were the same deep green as her sister's. Silvery blonde hair tumbled down her back. Her dark skin was set off by a gown of white. Her only adornment was a necklace of twining willow branches. Shimmering beetles, bright butterflies, and dusky spiders clung to it, each of living jewel. A tall mirror stood against the wall in the great hall where the sisters played, its silver frame mottled with tarnish. Love waved her hand over the glass and an image appeared. It showed the dining room, once grand, now ruined. Outside the room's mullioned windows, snow fell. Inside, a tormented creature, half man, half animal, paced. Back and forth they went, casting longing glances at the door. His eyes were fierce, but in their depth, haunted. Death glanced up. "How is your beast these days?" she asked archly. "Still smashing furniture, dinner plates, the windows?" "I'm hopeful for him," Love replied, touching the glass for the first time. "I don't know why," said Death. "Once a beast, always the beast." "You always look for the worst in everyone," said Love reproachfully. "And I always find it," Death said, her gaze directed at the chessboard again. She frowned, drumming her crimson fingers on the table. Then, with a slight glance at her sister's back, she made her move. "Poor little pawn, such a pity," she drawled, nudging her knight across the board. The china chess pieces were painted to resemble quarters at a masquerade. The knight's face was hidden by an iron helmet. The pawn was costumed as a harlequin. Through a fashion of porcelain they lived and breathed. The knight advanced. The pawn raised her hands, begging for her life, but the knight, unmoved by her pleas, swung his sword and lopped off her head. China swords flew everywhere. The pretty head rolled across the board, its eyes still blinking. Love turned around, startled by the sound of shattering porcelain. Her eyes flashed with anger as she viewed the board. "You cheated, sister!" she exclaimed. "That knight was nowhere near my pawn." Death pressed the jeweled hand onto her chest. "I certainly did not," she lied. Love gave her a withery look. "It's my own fault," she said, sitting down again. "I should know better than to take my eyes off you, even for a second. You hate to lose." Death leaned back in her chair, twining her fingers in her necklace, trying not to smirk. As she waited for her sister to make a move, her eyes traveled around the room and hung above the stone mantel. The heads of boars and wolf adorned the walls, firelight dancing in their glass eyes. A sudden movement in the mirror caught Death's attention. The glass now showed a magnificent library, and if a young woman. She was wearing the plain blue dress of a village girl. Her thick dark tresses were tied up with a ribbon, and her warm brown eyes sparkled with humor and intelligence. Death gazed sharpened at the appearance of this girl, like a lion's at the sight of gazelle. "Belle," she whispered, "so beautiful, just like your name." Love glanced at the mirror. "You know the girl?" she asked. "I've known her for quite some time. She was babe in her mother's arm when we met." As Death watched, Belle pulled the book off a shelf, then held into it, smiling. Beast squinted at it. Trying to read the title, Belle opened the book and read the first page. Her head bent. She didn't see the sadness in the beast's eye. Turned to happiness. Love, her finger poised over the chessboard now. That girl will be the one, mark my words. She's brave, stubborn, even more stubborn than the beast, and she has a heart of gold. But it's not the girl's heart that is in question, is it? Death mused. Love, her brow furrowed in concentration, barely heard her sister. Not did she notice as a horned beetle flew off her necklace and landed atop the mirror. It's the beast's heart we're concerned with. Death continued. Have you forgotten how he behaved when he was still a prince? Why on every day he has enchanted? He spent alms meant for the poor on new carriage, made fun of a kitchen boy's stutter, and ran a stag to death with his haunts. I would have turned the fool into a worm and crushed him under my boot, but you did not. Why? I'll never know. Because he deserved a second chance, Love said. Everyone does. My enchantress transformed the outer man to transform the inner. His suffering will teach him kindness and compassion. He'll find his heart again. Death groaned in expiration. He has no heart, sister. One cannot find that which never existed. Love's eye, bright with feelings, met Death. You're wrong, she said. I've watched him since he was a child. I saw what happened to him, how cruelly his father treated him. He had to hide his heart. It was the only way he could survive. Death waved a dismissive hand at her, but Love did not give up. Giving up was in her nature. Have you ever seen a bear made to fight off dogs in a village square for sport? She asked. Have you seen how it snarls and snaps? Pain, fear. They can turn you into something you were never meant to be. The beast can change. You'd better be quick about it. The rules of your books, none too healthy, Death said, nodding at the mirror. And now show the table in the beast's castle. Candlelight fell upon it, illuminating a single red rose suspended in a glass clutch. The rose's head drooped. Withered petals lay under it. As Death and Love watched, another one dropped. If the beast doesn't succeed in winning Belle's love by the time the last petal falls, he must remain a beast forever, said Death. You took a gamble, dear sister, on the human heart, a fool's bet if ever they were. Me, I'll wager a million louis, or that the beast fails. Love raised an eyebrow. 1,000,000 gold coins. You must be rich indeed. If you can afford to lose such a sum, she said, returning her attention to the chessboard. Death smiled patronizingly in a voice dripping with fake sympathy. She said, I understand. You don't want to bet. It's too much money. You're afraid. Of nothing, least of all you, Love retorted. Make it 2,000,000. Death's eye lit up. There was nothing she loved more than gambling. Just yesterday, she'd heard a young barons on horseback say, I bet I can jump that fence, and a farm boy boast, I bet I can swim across the river. She'd won both of those wager handily. Love was the same way. The higher the stakes, the more impossible the odds, the more eager she was up to the end. It was the one thing that two sisters had in common, that gold is as good as mine, Death said. Humans are selfish creatures who can always be counted on to do a wrong thing. Shall I tell you how the story ends? The beast is horrible to Belle. She abandons him. The last petal falls. Then it. Love adjusted her chin. You have no idea how the story ends. You're not its author. Sometimes kindness and gentleness win. Death snorted. And sometimes unicorns gallop down rainbows. Love glared at her. 3,000,000. Done, Death crowed. I'm going to win the wager. Sister dearest, just you wait and see.